Hello, my name is Benny and I will be introducing Group 11 for the Least Motivating Job project. We chose a sign flipper, also known as a sign spinner, as the least motivating job. I will begin this presentation with a brief description of what a sign flipper does. Emily, Brittany, and Riley will then each describe one of the three main perspectives of motivation. I will conclude the presentation by describing the Pritchard-Ashwood model of motivation and how it applies to sign flipping. A sign flipper promotes their place of employment by standing nearby the place of business and advertises a business by holding up a sign. Sign spinners draw attention to pedestrians and passing traffic by flipping their signs. Some even dance to attract attention. Salary is typically minimum wage.
Hi, my name is Emily Tripp, and I am part of Group 11, and we are doing sign flipping for the least motivating job, or sign spinning. I am focusing on the biological component, and I'm going to talk to you a couple of things that might apply. For the biological component of stress, according to page 241 in the text, it says that for sign flipping, it kind of avoids any type of serious stress or arousal by the minimal mental demand of the job, respectfully. So because of this, there really isn't a fight or flight response activated, and it's not really necessary. Fear and anxiety, page 272, it kind of talks that anxiety is hereditary. And because of this, sign flipping, respectfully, it's not really a challenging job. It could be a way to kind of avoid anxiety or cope with even depression. Not that all these individuals are miserable, not what I'm saying. But either way, there is more activity in the right prefrontal cortex for individuals that meet these qualifications. According to the text, sensation seeking, page 343, is also kind of a factor. The job doesn't really fill, respectfully, any of the qualifications of sensation seeking. MOA could be high and low sensation seekers. That means more neurotransmitters are actually available for these individuals. Low-level sensation seeking sign flippers don't really experience the rewards as others do in various experiences. So that's kind of sad. Need for predictability and control, page 361. According to Rotter's locus of control, the scale measures influences of whether external or internal. Sign flippers don't really utilize a great deal of motivation, whether physical or mental, for their jobs, so this is often tied with maybe more even external views in the Rotter's locus of control scale. Competence and achievement motivation, page 365 in the text, it kind of details the fact that due to the absence of threats and dangers, the BIS system begins to actually subside, and it actually allows the BAS system to assert itself. The BAS kind of explores the environment, and the BIS is more for survival. So it's the BAS system is kind of just for exploring the environment. The BIS for survival really wouldn't be applied, so maybe these individuals are exploring environments, but either way, both systems aren't really challenged, which kind of lacks in motivation. For theory and principles of goal setting, lastly, on page 373 in the text, it kind of describes that without goals, there's no direction set to be achieved. There really aren't any goals set for sign flipping. There's no proximal or distal goals, and without distal goals, you can't have proximal goals. So therefore, sign flippers kind of lack goals, motivation, and threats or challenges. So these are some reasons why sign flipping really is the least motivating job. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brittany Norbeck, and I am part of Group 11. We are discussing how the job of sign flipping can be seen as an unmotivating job. I specifically will be discussing the cognitive component of this. So, to begin with, cognition is a process, which basically means that how we think impacts how we behave. Sign flipping is often thought of to be more of a lower level job that requires little to possibly even no skill, and this is ideally thought of to be a job that's held by someone who is in high school or even on that similar level. Someone knowing this and holding this job is more likely to feel embarrassed or even ashamed about holding this type of position, and therefore that can affect their behavior and cause them to be unmotivated in the way that they act on the job. This actually leads me directly into my next point, which discusses the cognitive dissonance theory. This is basically the tendency for people to be consistent with existing mental models, beliefs, attitudes, values, and stereotypes surrounding a thing. The attitudes and stereotypes surrounding the job of sign flipping is really that the job is unsought after, requiring little to no skill, offering little to no future, really unfulfilling, unmotivating, and kind of even embarrassing. So a person holding this job who knows these negative attitudes and stereotypes surrounding this position and then even believes them is definitely more likely to behave based on that notion. And this is kind of similar to a self-fulfilling prophecy. My last point discusses the locus of control, which is basically the degree to which a person believes that they can control their own destiny. Sign flippers do not have the most motivating and fulfilling jobs, which is probably something that can be linked to more of an external view when it comes to the locus of control. The external view is basically where a person believes that the environment controls their destiny versus an internal view where the person believes that they are in control of their own destiny. Really, all in all, when it comes down to the cognitive component, how we think impacts how we behave. If somebody believes or feels that their job is unmotivating, unfulfilling, just really lacking enjoyment, then they're definitely going to act based on that notion, which brings us right back around to the beginning, which is how sign flipping ultimately is or can be seen as a very unmotivating job.
One aspect of the learned component is attention, in particular selective attention. People are only able to attend to a restricted amount of stimuli at one time. When people learn about the job of a sign spinner, they tend to selectively attend to the negative connotations associated with the job. People also learn through experience and what they've been exposed to. The job of a sign spinner is repeatedly used in commercials and in television to represent the job of someone who is unsuccessful. The first example that comes to mind is in an episode of the series Breaking Bad, when the young protagonist applies to a job at a bank and doesn't realize that he's applying to be the sign spinner for the bank. When he realizes this, he's insulted and decides to go back to cooking meth rather than being degraded to spinning a sign to earn a living. Another aspect of the learned component of motivation is operant and classical conditioning. Both types of conditioning serve as motivators. One reason that being a sign spinner is such an unmotivating job is because neither type of conditioning occurs very often in this job. The only situation I can think of would be classical conditioning. If the sign spinner sees someone notice them spinning their sign, and then also sees them go into the place of business that they're advertising, then it would reinforce them to continue spinning. However, since the sign spinner is usually not within sight of the entrance of the business, this doesn't happen very often. So there's usually not any type of even intrinsic reward for attracting business. Instrumental learning is another aspect of the learned component. Instrumental learning includes both primary and secondary reinforcers. The only primary reinforcer of being a sign spinner would be the money that you get paid. Some sign spinners might get some sort of secondary reinforcement if they are able to see if they attracted the attention of a customer and got them to go into the business that they're advertising. Another secondary reinforcer could be the attention or applause from those passing by. But aside from that, there aren't many reinforcers that would increase motivation for this job.
The Pritchard-Ashford model of motivation is a process theory that attempts to explain the underlying mechanisms that drive human behavior. The model includes 5 components, which are action, results, evaluation, outcome, and need satisfaction. Action refers to the activities, behaviors, tasks, or thoughts that one carries out. In the case of a sign flipper, the action they carry out is flipping their sign for a certain store or business and getting the attention of nearby pedestrians and car drivers in hopes that more customers will become interested in what they're trying to advertise. The results component is the product of the action. The results of a sign flipper is the number of customers that come into the store due to their advertising on the side of the street. The third component of the Pritchard-Ashford model is evaluation. An evaluation of the results can be interpreted positively or negatively. For example, in the case of the sign flipper, their boss would give them a positive evaluation if there was a significant increase in the number of customers that came to the store. The boss would give them a negative evaluation if there was no increase in customers. The fourth component is outcome, which are the products that result from the evaluation. In a job setting, external outcomes include a pay raise, a promotion, and avoiding getting fired. Internal outcomes may include feeling proud of your accomplishment of bringing in more customers as a sign flipper with just your measly sign and dance moves. The fifth component of the Pritchard Ashwood model is need satisfaction. This is what people believe is required to motivate them to continue a certain action. If someone's outcome meets their needs for job satisfaction, they are more likely driven to continue their job. However, if the outcome does not meet their needs for job satisfaction, then we most likely will not engage that behavior again. As a sign flipper, your needs would be satisfied if you've gotten a raise due to bringing in a lot of customers, or even a promotion to a job inside the store rather than staying outside all the time. In the workplace, one of the most important needs is to perform well and be successful at your job. Success is acquired through hard work and usually results in a raise or promotion. All three components of motivation play a major role in the mechanisms that drive someone to work as a sign flipper. All three components alter a sign flipper's ability to perform their action in a way so that their result of attracting more customers would be negatively evaluated by their boss, leading to the outcome of no raise and promotion. These outcomes would not satisfy one's need for job satisfaction, which will thus decrease their motivation to continue working and eventually lead to them quitting their job. This concludes our presentation, and I hope you can agree with us that being a sign flipper or sign spinner is the least motivating job possible. Thank you.